electronically and will be broadcast live on CTN Channel 19 and online at a2.gov.org. Watch CTN for all of our fans, out there. Woo! Excellent. Okay, Erin, do you want to do roll call?
Yes. Commissioner Bufford.
Present, Ypsilanti Township.
Thank you. Councilmember Harrison said she would be absent today. Commissioner Fuller.
Present in Chelsea.
Thank you. Commissioner Kotarski.
Present Ann Arbor.
Commissioner Neal.
Present in Ann Arbor.
Thank you. Commissioner Porter will be absent today. Chair Thiefels.
Present in Grass Lake.
And Commissioner Weir-Leonard. Oh, you're on mute.
Present in Ann Arbor.
Thank you. And that is a quorum.
Excellent. Okay, so if everybody's had a chance to review the agenda for tonight, is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Thank you, John. And is there a second?
I think Sarah.
Okay, I don't have my video on, sorry. And then hopefully everybody has had a chance to review the minutes from last week. We had a good meeting, or sorry, last month. We had a good meeting, very productive. If you were absent, please check those out. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented? Or sorry, the minutes.
I think Sarah did.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, I should turn my Zoom back on. Okay. Second. Thanks, Jamal. Okay, fantastic. Moving right along.
And then,
Does somebody have the agenda?
Sorry, just real quick.
Oh,
And then all approved.
Vote.
oh,
Yep.
all approved. Thank you. All in favor. Okay, great. Any nays? No. Okay, we're good. Okay, so moving right along here. Sorry, I don't have the agenda up. I got to open it.
Here, let me
I
share my
did
screen.
read it. Okay, thank you. Sorry. Just like, I need a bigger screen. More things.
If you want to do a quick call for public comment.
Okay, is there anybody out there that would like to join us for public comment? Any call-ins, any?
So I don't see anyone in the queue.
Okay,
We are great to move on.
all right, can you pull that agenda back up?
Yep.
I'm gonna, while I grab it here. Okay, so we have a guest tonight. We are going to hear a report of the Ann Arbor Draft Land Use Plan, and perhaps hear how it might relate to the Public Art Commission. And we have a guest, Michelle Bennett, who is the senior planner with the City of Ann Arbor. We're very excited to have you, Michelle. Thank you so much for taking some time to fill us in on what's going on. And I'm sure the commissioners are very eager to hear what you have to say. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you all for having me this evening. Can you all hear me okay? Excellent. My name is Michelle Bennett. I am in the planning department at the City of Ann Arbor. Although I was thinking a little bit about my previous position, I started at the City of Ann Arbor as a community engagement specialist, and we may have had some overlap with this commission because I helped out during the bicentennial on the murals that were going on the basketball courts. And so I was a part of that process on the staff side, helping review those. And I believe we got some input from you all on process. And so that was my first and only time working with the Public Art Commission. I'm happy to be back tonight in a new capacity to share a little bit about the draft comprehensive land use plan. So I have a few slides here. Let me share them and see how this goes. Can everyone see this front slide? Okay. Awesome. So I want to start by explaining what this is. This is not a process that the city goes through often. The last time we embarked on this journey was in 2009. That was our land use plan that had many other elements in separate documents. And part of this effort is to try to consolidate a lot of different plans that staff use to review into one document. And the purpose of this document is to be long range and to be comprehensive. And when we say comprehensive, we are primarily focused on land use, but that ties into so many other components of a city, like transportation, housing, retail, parks, how all of these things connect, right? Have some tie into land use. And so we have spent the last year and a half doing a lot of research and following a similar process that a lot of planning or city planning documents follow, right? Which is let's do an inventory of what we have. Let's figure out where we want to go and then figure out how to get there. So this plan, the draft, is really a culmination of research on, you can see here a lot of these different topics: housing, economic development, transportation, land use. What are the trends? What are happening in our city? What are happening regionally? What are happening nationally? And one of our data points is also community input. So we have done quite a bit of community engagement as well. And then we put those together and we try to come up with goals and strategies to help us advance the city in the direction that we want to go. To do that, we have quite a bit of help. We had a steering committee that were representatives from the community. They applied and were selected, and they were sort of like a sounding board. They would listen to a lot of the work we've done. They'd provide us feedback, and we would meet regularly with them. The Planning Commission, by state statute, is considered the author of this plan through the Michigan Planning Enabling Act, and they will be one of the final adopters along with council. So it has to go through Planning Commission and then be approved by council. And then, like most plans, then it's on staff to implement what we have laid out for ourselves. I also encourage you all to go to this site. This will route you actually to the city's new engagement portal, and there's a project card there that has the draft plan there. It has our timeline. It has all of the recordings from our planning commission meetings where we discuss the comp plan, which I'll refer to it as sometimes for short, the comp plan. And it has slides from our steering committee meetings. So it has quite a bit more information there if you're curious after this. This process started with a resolution from City Council. These are some of the directives that they gave to us to align with our carbon neutrality plan, to densify the city, and that does include single family zones. To streamline our zoning, to have fewer zones that are more flexible. It gave us a framework here to follow. I'm going to touch a little bit more on this: affordability, sustainability, and equity. And then in terms of land use, to look at ways to repair past land use policies that have resulted in the exclusion of people based on race, income, or other characteristics, which zoning planner's main tool does have a history of. So they're asking us to look into that. So we brought those values to the public. We asked them, to help define these things for us. These are big, broad concepts. So we brought sustainable, affordable, equitable to them. And what arose during that was they felt that we had not captured these things, these bullet point here, which I think would have some overlap with commission. So I wanted to pull them out. The public had asked for us to add dynamic as a value, which they have given us some helpful pointers on what they mean by that. So a people-centered approach to growth, character of place and identity, creating vibrant spaces through placemaking and economic development, and preparing the city to adapt for future changes. So they want us to be vibrant, they want us to be evolving, they want us to be dynamic. The other thing that we like to share with people is that a lot of this plan is written so that it gives us the next steps. And as planners, our next steps are often to update our zoning code. That's how we regulate land use through the city. And I think that in a market like this, sometimes people think that zoning is destiny. And we want to make clear that if we do rewrite our zoning code to reflect our new goals and the directive we've been given, that these are the things that we have control over here, number 1 and 2, is our regulations, our zoning, and the land and infrastructure. But that is just a way for us to enable development, but that there are many other factors that go into this equation. So construction costs, capital, return on investment, these are other things that are also going to dictate whether development comes. So just because we say this is what we want and this is what we will allow, doesn't mean that it will necessarily come to us. We do suspect, though, and we have some, understanding of where we think there is quite a bit of pressure and where things will change. But there have been instances where we have changed things and waited for a couple of years before anything has happened. So I want to talk a little bit about the future land use. I'm not going to go in a ton of detail about this, but one of the challenges of planning is we try to convert all of our goals that we have onto a map, right? It's a discipline that's very spatially focused. And so we've created what's called a future land use map. And that's sort of our aspiration for our city of how we would like it to develop over time. And then we would try to gear our zoning towards that. So that is when the change would happen through zoning. That's the legal framework that enforces that. So this is a future land use map. This is changing as we speak. We are in the editing process. But I was going to go through some of these just in the way that I think that they could be places for more placemaking and more public art. So let me maybe hop to Hub, for example. I think this is something that we're proposing in the city that would sort of mimic our historic downtown. Now, of course, it's not going to look just like that because the architecture there is of a certain era and there's a DDA dedicated to it and it's near the university. But there are areas of the city that we feel could have this potential as well. Briarwood would be a good example if you are all up to date on how that's redeveloping. And so we started by looking at our shopping centers, our suburban style kind of parking lot with like a strip mall style development, right, with your stores along the side, that if those could be areas where we could over time become denser destinations for our residents and have a few mini downtowns across the city. And so those are areas I would think that either with this commission or through ordinance or through grants or some way that those are going to need placemaking in some way, because we don't want density for the sake of density, right? We want density to help create place. And there is a chance that some place could become dense and undesirable, right? And so those are ways that we might be thinking through these things together when we get to that part where we might be rewriting code to enable these kind of places like this image here on the bottom. I'm happy. I'm gonna keep going, but at the end I will ask questions. I can go back through the other districts if you'd like. I'm just pulling this one out because I think that's where we would have potentially the most to connect on. But please, if you want to hear more, let me know. So we are currently going through a public editing process. So we had our first draft of the comprehensive plan come out in the beginning of April. We spent 6 planning commission meetings going through, not quite line by line, but page by page together. We have sent all of those edits to our consultants, and we're hoping to have a second draft in the next couple of weeks here. And then late this summer, the plan, if we have to follow state statute, has to go through a review period. And that would be about 2 months in late summer, early fall. And then this is scheduled to go to Planning Commission and Council for adoption in October, November. So there is still time if you all, after today, feel so inspired to read it and provide any feedback. We are going to go through another round of edits. We just completed our first one and are in the middle of doing that. But if you want to work with Erin and I and send us anything, then I'm happy to do so. So I'm happy to turn it over to questions now. I can go back to any slides in the presentation or talk any more about any of the other kind of districts that we are proposing. Or anything else about the plan maybe you've heard about. There are certainly a lot of things going around that are being said. I'm happy to help clarify or answer any of them for you if you'd like.
Thank you, Michelle. Is it possible to unshare your screen so we can come back to a conversation?
Sure.
Okay. Does anybody have any thoughts or comments, questions, and how this relates to the public art work that we're doing? John, you had responded to the email that went out on this. Anybody?
Well, I can just reiterate for those that didn't see the email. I applaud the efforts, so, there are more people coming into our town than our places to live. It makes getting around town more difficult. We really need to get fewer cars, easier to get around on public transportation, things like that. And I think the comprehensive plan does that. And it focuses high-rise density in these T1 districts, these transportation corridors, which is, I think, smart. As it relates to taking public spaces, and I think Michelle mentioned this about placemaking, because that's kind of the term that's used for public art. I served on the now defunct Design Review Board, and they had guidelines, and part of that was using public art to make a better pedestrian experience. So they wanted a more walkable city, and rather than buildings just being sort of pieces of art themselves, the idea was that if you have a dense city, you really you can't really depend on driving your car from one spot to the other. So you have to make it easier to walk, and people enjoy that, and it actually is an economic kind of producer. So there are all kinds of positive sorts of things. And I think that the idea, if you make something denser, that you really need to have facilities availability um, for drugstores and hardwares and something like that within a 10 to 15-minute walk. That's the challenge of how do you take these urban areas that are, it's not just Ann Arbor, it's across the country. So I think it's very smart that Michelle, what you've done and what you've pulled together and the outreach, people are talking about it. We just can't afford these single family zoning, and particularly with all the history to it of being exclusionary. So, but what does that mean? If neighborhoods are more dense and there are fewer places to park and drive, what other part of the character? And so there's going to be small commercial places in areas that we wouldn't necessarily expect, but I think that we have examples of that in the Old West Side. There's Market right on a residential, across from a school. So it works. People like it, and I would love to have kind of a small coffee shop, not a big chain, within, a 5-10 minute walk of my house. So one of the elements that I'm reading about that makes this kind of walkability more pleasant is to have interesting things to see as you're doing it, particularly taking public spaces and turning them into civic places. And that's what public art can do. And I think, Mary, with your murals and in the sculpture garden in front of the food co-op, for example. I mean, people congregate, maybe not to study and examine that piece of sculpture that's there, but it adds to it. It's a welcoming kind of place. And so placemaking, wayfinding, things like that. And we have a bunch of historic markers, the street exhibit program, which I was involved in for several years, Ray Detter. And so, you walk around, you learn about the history, and it's kind of a public art. You look through the glass and you see the past, and you see the president through the past, and it's kind of cool and neat. And you learn about the town while you're sort of walking around. All of these things. And I think the Art Commission has tried to do that. We've spearheaded that. It was the Percent for Art program, 10, 15 years ago. That was the intent of it. And we really never were able to kind of make that happen. But what I am pleased to realize is the DDA is making that happen, and they're doing a spectacular job with it. They report to us. They sort of engage us as a partner, active partner, and frankly, I would love to see the DDA boundaries expand. Give them all the T1 districts. Let them really expand because they can do it. They do it well, and they do it efficiently. And the thing that we never were able to have was staff dedicated to it. We're a bunch of volunteers. We've got great ideas, but what can we really do? And there isn't a way to allocate the kind of staff. And I don't think there's an understanding of public art. It's kind of a fuzzy sort of feely, but it isn't. I mean, it involves, creative benches. It involves creative bus stops. It involves all kinds of wayfinding and the kind of work that Mary and Daniel are doing are spectacular. They're world class. And the same thing with Alan Zinn and all these other kind of artists that, Festive Fools is really public art. It's a parade, but, I've tried to convince friends it's public art. Well, it's not public art, John. It's a parade. Well, it's a way of creating place, and it's very political. It's very creative. So we have a lot of examples of it working in town, and now we need it. I mean, people are coming in. They're moving here whether we like it or not, and they're bidding up the price of homes so that a lot of people that teach and our public servants can't afford to retire here in Ann Arbor, and that's a shame. So we need to do something about it. I think the comprehensive plan does it. So kind of in an expanded version of my email, you're doing a great job, Michelle. Just keep on doing it.
Thank you. That's very kind.
Thank you, John.
So I think John, touched on this, the way that, we've been able to interact as a commission in a pretty strong way is interacting with the city's CIP list and making art enhancement recommendations via that list. So my question, I guess, as we move forward with this comprehensive plan, which is really exciting to be a part of and see. And I love the way that the public is involved in this plan. So I know this is servicing, of course, redeveloping zoning, which will be targeting developers, but would we see new CIP projects come on because of this development? I guess what can we see, I think, as a resource to help include public art in this plan? We know we want to be a resource for developers, but we know we have this tie with the CIP list. So how do those things, I guess, work together, and how can we be visible and offer support through the process?
Yeah, I think so the CIP process is going to be very important because as we enable greater density in the city, that's going to require more infrastructure. So I think, and when I say that, I mainly mean utility infrastructure, but if we think about social infrastructure as well, and I would consider that like parks, amenities, which art would be included in, we need more of that as well, right? So this is kind of where we're bumping up against, some people feeling crowded, where it's like we want more people, but with more people, you also need more things and you have to fit them in the same space. And so I think for planners, the CIP process will be largely thinking about what infrastructure needs are going to allow us to get to these goals. And I'm thinking specifically of like pipes, like upsizing pipes to make sure they're big enough for new development. But I mean, it doesn't have to stop there, right? I mean, like I'm saying, social infrastructure as well is going to be very important. And so I think that that could be another way for us to work together in the future, right? Because we're trying to allow more people to live in the city, and they should also have access to the wonderful things that you all help provide as well. And so there has to be more of everything. And I'm less familiar with the art projects that go into the CIP. I have yet to be on this side of it. So that could be another potential way that we could work together towards that.
That's great. Thank you. Yeah, we've done the what was it? The storm drain project or the manhole covers. I mean, something, power art, which Creative Washington has sort of led with the city with the electrical boxes. So yeah, nothing is too small to take a look at and enhance. Yes, thank you.
Can I just tag on to what Sarah said regarding the CIP and for Michelle's benefit, is that we've spent several years working through this. We first took a look at the process. How do you take all of those CIPs, and how do you identify potential for public art? And so we've thought about it from an administrator's point of view. How do you do that? How do you sift through? And so we have a grading system and a process to do that. And David Esau really spent a lot of time in it, as well as we have an ongoing committee. So, and we've been doing this for several years, 4, 5, 6 years, I think, maybe more. And so we identify each of those CIP projects, And we don't pick art, but we just say the kind of art that might be well situated here. And maybe we give a rough budget. And we put that into a list, and that goes to somebody. We don't know where this stuff goes that we create. But it gets tacked on somewhere. And but there is really no advocate for that kind of placemaking except us, and we don't know where to advocate it. And we're here. We'd love to help flesh it out, but it really, so that it ends up when that 6 year sort of CIP thing goes through the sausage making, it ends up with, a project manager, and they go, what is this? I don't know what art, like I'm not an artist, so, I know drains and I know, construction and all that. So I think it's a potential to really activate this commission. We've already done the work. We're doing the work. I mean, a lot of the people that you see here today are on that committee, and they meet regularly to do this. And we've tested this. So it's, it's a good process. We could probably improve it, but it falls off and it's not really picked up. I think it's at some point that if we can be involved in another way or somehow, I don't know. I leave it to you, however, Michelle, to figure out, your planner, that this is a component that, how do you want to use us as advisors, and all the work we do, it's a black hole as far as we can see right now. So we would be even more encouraged if we can track it or if we can see something about it. So, uh, enough said. I mean, Sarah said it better than I could. So thank you.
So to be fair, the CIP committee did meet recently with someone from the city. I'm blanking on her name. She's got a great database that takes all of the projects that we've recommended and adds that as a component within the database, and that is shared by all the city staff. So when they do take on a project, it says that we've recommended it for public art enhancements. It includes the budget that we've put on there. And so it's not going into a black hole anymore. It's actually very well organized. And we've seen lots more projects actually picking up our recommendations and including them. I guess the issue is potentially is that is our only way of recommending that public art become part of the city's plan, is by tagging it on to CIP projects. There is no independent way with development that is outside of the city for us to be participants or recommend public art currently, other than if the DDA and or the city decides they want to do a project that includes public art. Often, not always, they will come and talk to us. And those budgets are completely outside of what we recommend and have any part of. So I guess that would be the separation I see, is that we don't have any direct link with public art projects that are not connected directly with an enhancement on a CIP project.
I know some cities have ordinances. I don't know if this commission has already explored that. And I don't want to, I'm not trying to give Aaron necessarily any more work, but if we were interested in working together on this, we mainly enforce things or come up with things through ordinances, right? And planning in particular. So that's a possibility as well. That with development, certain kinds of development, that certain types of art would have to be required, or there was a fund for it, or that's the only other mechanism that I know of. I have not researched it extensively, but I know some communities do it that way. So maybe that's something we can consider.
Yeah, that's a good recommendation, something we should look at.
I've heard it called like a beautification ordinance in other places.
Be interesting to find examples of the language around that and how it's implemented. I know that across the state of Michigan, for example, Grand Rapids and Lansing are doing incredible things with public art. And it seems like their projects are extremely broad in terms of where they are and the partnerships across the city. And what would it take to create an ordinance?
That's a good question. So there are two different kinds of ordinances. Zoning is one that planners use, and then there are police power ordinances. And I think with public art, it could go in either. So I think maybe an exploration first of maybe how other communities are doing that would work. But in terms of like what department that would fall under and the actual like all of that I would I'd have to talk to like the rest of the team to learn about, but it might be a good first exercise to see if that's something, if that's a format that you guys are interested in and what other communities are doing.
I think absolutely we'd like to explore that more. Yeah.
We could create another committee that we could all sit on. No, I think I'm very curious to see. I mean, we have a pretty extensive public art collection that the city has that we kind of help maintain and manage. We've created a map, a tour of public art in our downtown that is linked on the city website. And so we're definitely trying to do more visibility work for the public art that is existing, and then also what we want to bring to the city as a commission. Are there any other thoughts or questions for Michelle?
One short thing is that, Mary, you brought it up, that we have an extensive art collection.
World class, yes.
World class.
Mhm.
And it's valued at $2 million. And also the historic street exhibit program is a part of that inventory of public art. That's valued at $1 million. So if you want to think about it just in terms of money, that there's a $3 million asset that is setting in the city that really is underutilized. And you have a bunch of folks on this commission that would love to brainstorm ideas and help in whatever way they could volunteer-wise. But we need help, with staff. Aaron can't do it all, neither can you do it all. So I'm really glad. I've been kind of out of the loop with the CIP and Allison. I'm glad to hear, Allison, that there in fact is an engagement with the staff. But so it's a $3 million asset. It's not just, a few artsy projects.
Michelle, what do you see the next steps or the value of the Public Art Commission with your plan moving forward? How can we make this juicier or support? What do you see the next steps are?
Well, that's a good question. I might have to think about that more. You're welcome to provide any edits if you feel like you think public art or something along those lines, placemaking is missing from the current plan, so we can get that in the larger framework. Because like I said, a lot of our ordinances are going to stem from what's written in the plan, so that could be a good first step. And then if we all stay in contact, I will be the person who is also in charge of implementing this plan. So they hired me to help write it, and then I will stay on to then make it happen.
Amazing.
but it is a long and slow process, right? It's looking to 2050. So it's a long range plan. So I might say start by looking at that, and then exploring, maybe Aaron and I could help, but exploring ways. I mean, I'm limited to my planner brain, which is like I think of getting things done through ordinances. So that was why I recommended that. And so maybe the next step is to look into that to see if that's feasible or a good mechanism, or if there are others that are available.
Great.
I like that recommendation. I know, John, you were most involved on the development, forgive me, board, whatever they were called. And when you would talk to developers, was there like a certain threshold where you were like, this percentage of your budget should go towards placemaking or public art or anything like that, that potentially language wise we'd want to see in this plan as well?
Well, most of the developers, it was the design review board. And so it was a requirement, and the city, and it really was, to be truthful, it wasn't quite as functional as it could be. There were a lot of good intentioned people, but they just sat around and they said, well, and these were architects saying, well, what about the cornice? And I don't like this, or I don't like, and so I was the public art guy, and have you thought of public art? And all the developers, I mean, it's a classic. Oh, yes, we would like public art. But when it got down to where and what and how, it was a challenge for some of them. And depending on where you introduce that idea in that design process, some of these projects that came before the design review board, they had everything, they didn't want any ideas. They've already spent, $3-4 million on this design, and they weren't going to add a floor or put balconies out or whatever. So it's the ability to inject within that planning process for developers something that is attractive. And what they really care about, I mean, a lot of these architects, I mean, some of them are brilliant. They're artists, but they're not all. I mean, but they all, are bankers. They all deal with money. So they want to know, what's it going to do for my bottom line? How is this going to enhance? So making the case that placemaking actually is a moneymaker for development is important for the city. And second, then how could they get advice? And I've offered the art commission, and most of them say, great, when we get to that point, we'll get in touch. But they want to know, is there a registry of artists? Or what kind of art? What's it going to cost? All those kinds of things. And of course, the answer is all, well, it depends. What do you want to spend? And well, what do I need to spend? So those kind of questions came up, that most of the developers were interested, and it was what would it do to my bottom line? They wanted to know, and how could this benefit the public liking my project? And I basically said local artists, and then maybe not think about it as a piece of art, but as a rotating art gallery, even if it's a small space, or kind of a functioning art, like for elderly exercising, but in a creative way, or benches or things like that. But I was one brief voice. I think there would be an opportunity, but I think the best way to do it is to be able to find out how that could be presented to developers and at what time. I mean, is it a brochure? Is it an online? We created the public art idea book. So we have a link that, there's 200 or 300 unique pieces of public art all over the world, and just to stimulate. So I think there's a great opportunity, and we're great idea people, that when the new planning, when the new development process takes place, you know, maybe either Aaron or Michelle or whatever, figure out a way that we can offer suggestions or what we can create to really inspire, because that's what this design review board was supposed to do. It was supposed to be collegial and supposed to be inspirational. That after meeting with this group, the architects would come back and they would make their project look better aesthetically. That's easier said than done. So that's about all I can say, Allison.
Okay, any other thoughts? Michelle, if you can hang out for another 10, 15 minutes, I don't know if you're in a rush, but I am going to be presenting a couple projects that are happening in the city that are definitely kind of fitting into the vibe that it sounds like your plan is trying to capture. Are there any other thoughts for Michelle or any other questions? Well, I think there's a lot of value in having this conversation. I think as this commission grows, we are trying to just have more footing with the city at the ground floor of these projects so that public art can be considered and citizens and visitors to our community can appreciate not only the new design of our city, but also the elements that make a community unique, such as art. Are we in a good space to move on, or we're all very grateful for your time, Michelle. You're welcome to stay, but if you have to leave, that's totally understandable. We have next on our agenda the approval of our plan, which you may find interesting. It is our kind of vision for the next year as a commission. It sort of piggybacks on efforts that we have been doing for the last couple years and some new ideas. This is something that we're going to approve right now so that it can go to City Council as our official 2025 plan. Hopefully we can see some of these things come to fruition. Do I have a motion to approve I just lost my page here.
Public Art 2025 plan and goal.
Yes, yep, exactly, John. The
So
20.
move
So moved. Is there a second? Okay, thank you, Peggy. All in favor of approving our 2025 plan and goals? Okay, it looks like we have all ayes. Okay, so the approval is passed. This will go in front of City Council. I'm not sure if it's the next meeting, Aaron, or when that's coming up.
Yeah, it's probably too soon. The next meeting is on the 16th, so it'll probably be the following meeting that it would go to City Council.
Okay, very good. So the next item of business is I'm going to do a short presentation for the Murals That Bridge project. Last year, we had a successful project on Huron Street, and we are right now actively fundraising to do a similar restoration and public art to the Main Street overpass with the same kind of welcome messaging. Because this is an MDOT right-of-way, they're requiring a City Council resolution of support. And with the Public Art Commission's approval tonight, this can then go to that resolution. This can then go in front of City Council. So I wanted to share with every one of you, and I'm kind of doing this as an artist. Sarah will be formally leading the approval process and the motion to approve. But I wanted to first start off, if I can, with just a really short, fun drone video of the finished mural. I know that all of you have seen the probably the mural finished, but there's some really nice takes here. Everybody have that on their screen?
Yes.
So these underpasses have been seen as welcoming gates to our community, both at North Huron here and then, at Huron here and then secondly at North Main when you come off M14. This project was funded by numerous private donors, foundations, and Destination Ann Arbor. We are moving forward with almost full funding for Main Street. We just have to go through all the bureaucracy and red tape to get it approved. So we're kind of moving fast here to make that happen. So you're welcome to pull up that document again, Erin, if you'd like. So it took us a couple years to get this through all of the bureaucratic approvals, and now we're hoping to fast track Main Street. So what you'll see here is, actually, if I can share my screen so that I can navigate through the document, that might be a little easier. Okay, so everybody is familiar with downtown coming in off M14, the underpass there. It has murals on it. They were painted 23 years ago. What we're really trying to do is target the fascia beam, which is the metal overpass, the actual train bridge that goes over the road. We have a company that will come in and restore the rusted metal, and then welcoming messaging as you're coming into town, similar to Huron, will go on the north side of the fascia beam. And then the murals themselves are going to kind of capture the wildlife and nature. These are just some studies that were done. This is not the design that has been approved, but just to give you an idea, when we think about what is really unique about that area is that Argo, the dam, the new development that's happening down there. There's so much new vibrancy in that area. Thousands of people are using the border to border trail now for recreational use. We've got the cascades, the canoe livery. So the mural designs will kind of showcase what is happening in that area in this part of town. These images right here just show you where the new art will go. So on the wing walls, there will be new murals. And then again, on the fascia beam, there will be welcoming messaging for both visitors and residents to enjoy as they're coming into town. These two overpasses have been identified as gates to our community and both highly kind of neglected, blighted areas. And Freetown Murals, in partnership with private funders, is taking the charge to restore and create artwork that can make these spaces much more beautiful and appealing to all people to enjoy. So tonight, I'm just sharing this project with you. This is our finished Huron and our hopeful North Main site. As we kind of work through the bureaucratic needs of MDOT, this is sort of the first step in making all that happen. So I'm all ears if people have questions or comments. But tonight we're really hoping the commission will approve this project, or support, not approve, but support this project so that we can then take it to City Council and work through the steps that we need to with MDOT.
I think we've all loved seeing the other project come to fruition, and I would move to support another project of this sort on North Main with Mary's team at the helm.
Yep, and I'll second that. It's great.
Should I do an all in favor?
Yes.
And say aye.
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 Okay, awesome. All right. So approved, right, Sarah? So supported, so supported. Okay.
The resolution to support the installation has been approved by the Ann Arbor Public Art Commission.
Mary, you might want to sort of wordsmith the exact language that you would like the Art Commission to use to, I don't know what is necessary, but, to me, you and Daniel are world-class artists, and we are lucky to have you. And so, and everything you've done has just been spectacular. So I think that it should reflect that wholeheartedly, unanimously. So,
Thank you, John. Yes, I can put together a couple sentences that I can share with Aaron to package in whatever we need. We can work that out, Aaron, if you'd like.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Excellent. Okay, we are just cruising here. Michelle, I see that you're kind of still there and you're hanging out. Thank you so much. I just thought it might be nice for you to see what initiatives are happening in the city that the city isn't funding, but is totally supporting. So that is those are two of the big projects that my company is personally spearheading. Okay, going back to our agenda, we have, right now we're moving on to report from committees, if that is where we're at. Are there committees? I know that fundraising has met, and should we start there? Sarah and I met with the Ann Arbor Community Foundation liaison, who gave us a lot more information about our endowment that we're able to draw from. We have $22,000 that the Public Art Commission can use. We did find out some interesting information about the variance. The variance for this particular money must be used to spendable distribution, okay, maintenance, preservation, purchasing, and installation. So we did learn that we might have some roadblocks for our granting to be around promotion or performance. So Sarah and I are putting our heads together on that right now. And Allison, just to kind of fill you in there, maintenance, preservation, purchase, and installation is right now what the money can be spent on. And we did tell Karen at the Community Foundation that we have drawn from that fund and used it for advertising in the past. So her thought was that maybe, it's not as policed, but Sarah, what was your take on that? Like moving forward, that's kind of like our parameters, right?
Yes, that, the kind of the past is the past, but moving forward, that there might be actually more of a spotlight on how those funds are utilized, particularly because we haven't drawn any funds since 2021 and we have accrued a large balance that, they would like to see us spend. I think this granting program falls right within those parameters if we are sticking to visual art projects with more permanence. I think there's a little play there, but it does seem that we would really maybe want to pursue another variance, which we were led to believe is a very difficult thing to achieve when it comes to endowment funds. Our endowment fund is over 20 years old. And it took a long time, a decade, right, to grant this variance. So if we're really committed to adding in performance and promotion, to the definition of how we utilize those funds, that would be a pretty large effort. So we might want to start our grants within that definition before looking to change or augment that variance.
Yeah, so I was involved with the language update, which we did about 5 years ago.
Okay.
Pretty sure we included the word promotion when we did it. I think we pulled words from the bylaws of things that we were supposed to be doing with the money. But I'll dig into it and see where the language
Yeah,
sits.
if you wouldn't mind, Allison, and I don't know why it would be so hard to change that language. She seemed to think it would have to go through the
It would be hard to get approval of the board, I think, is what 'cause it needed, right, the board approval.
mhm.
But yeah, if you've been through that process,
I
because
don't remember it being complicated at all, but
Yeah, let's
like I said, I think
yeah.
the language did specifically say promotion of the collection.
Oh, maybe. I wrote down maintenance, preservation, purchase, and installation, but maybe they're
So yeah, I mean, it should actually be on their website also, but I'm not finding it right away. So I'll dig into it a little bit and see if I can find that language. It should be in our minutes from way back when also, but who knows when.
I don't
So
know. I don't know if you all know the answer to this, but just a clarifying question. When it says purchase, is it like talking about purchasing actual pieces of art or
yeah.
yeah, because sometimes people donate art to the city. I don't know, what's an example of when the city has purchased a piece of art, maybe,
Well, we haven't used
or
the
we
money.
haven't.
We haven't ever, so the fund, the endowment used to, before we changed the language, was only allowed to be used for maintenance.
Okay.
Regardless, it was used for projects. And we said, well, we don't want to just use it for maintenance, especially because now the city has built in to their structure, maintaining the pieces.
Mhm.
Like each of the individual city organizations that own it are supposed to maintain it. So while that is something we want to have funding for in case we need it, we want to be able to do other things with the money. And that's when we changed the language there so that we could buy art if we wanted to. And I, like I said, I'm pretty sure promotion was part of that, but
I think one of the things that we found exciting was the ephemeral kind of art, the performance, that we'd have like a broad net of people to be able to apply for these mini grants. And so we kind of agreed that this year we would kick it off within that language structure, but then hope to maybe change that because performing arts and is such a big part of our community. So we have $22,000 right now. Every year we'll have around an additional 5,000. The money gets distributed in the spring, so I think that's perfect timing for sending out and requests for proposals. So we haven't worked out any of the details. We're just sort of investigating how the money works, how it's earmarked and this and that. So fundraising, we'll get together again to really hammer out some details. So hopefully at the July meeting, we'll have something to present to you all even before so that we can maybe approve it at the July meeting to move forward with our first mini grant. Or multiple. Anything else from fundraising? Okay. Any other committees have anything to report?
Well, on special projects, we're continuing with our golden paintbrush. It should have gone out and been advertised, and Robert Keller reached out to, I think it was Sophie and I, and maybe Aaron too, WEMU wants to do something radio about the award and just getting the word out there. And so I think Sophie's going to do it. We don't have a date yet, but just more PR. So,
Great. That's good news, Peggy.
yeah,
Thank you for your work on that.
sure.
Well, we have room for new commissioners, so leadership has some work to do. There's applications with the city right now. I know that Sarah and I got to briefly look through some of these applicants. Now is a good time if folks know people that they want to invite to the commission. Erin, do you know how many? I kind of got a sense that that was an official resignation from Fong earlier in an email. Yes.
Correct. Yeah. So there's
Okay.
two open spots. Yep.
Okay. So if folks know of anybody, certainly we would take commissioner recommendations very seriously. There are, I think, 8 applicants, people that are applying to be on the art commission or other commissions. Some of them specifically would like to join the art commission. Others are just looking to get involved in the city. So there were a couple standout individuals for sure. We've talked about getting youth on the commission. I don't know if there's an age limit. Do our members have to be 18 and older? Is that something that we know or should look into? Probably.
Mary,
So,
we talked about having students on.
mhm.
That would be appointed by the Art Commission. They wouldn't be voting members. But
Okay.
I think to go through the city council, there might be an age limit for the appointment to just generally any commissions. I would suspect that it's 18. I don't know.
Yes. Okay. To
I
be a
know there's
voting
an
member.
interest in getting more young people involved, and one simple, easy way to do it would be for us to appoint them ourselves without going through the council. We've talked about it. I don't know. I think Allison, we've talked about it at some point in the past, but and I think we have a resolution to that effect that we can do it if we want to. So one way to think about it. Well, I have your attention, Mary. I just want to tell you the mural in Echelon Restaurant is spectacular.
Oh,
It's
thank you.
freaking awesome. I
Thank
was
you,
blown
John.
away. I showed it to my wife, and so we
Aw.
go to Echelon Restaurant just to see it. It's
Aw.
spectacular. If you haven't
Thank you.
seen it, it's worth the trip, or at least from the pictures. Well done, Mary.
Thank you. Thank you. That was a lot of fun.
What's it
Well-
of, Mary? I'm going there next week for dinner. What's it of?
Oh, fun. Well, it's kind of like an Inception kind of thing. It's like an image of their bar.
Oh, cool.
But it's sort of it's a fantasy image of a scene in their bar.
Okay. Great.
Jamal and I were there doing some selfies. Thank you.
I just want to put something on everybody's radar. I don't know if it falls in a particular work group, maybe special projects, but a friend of mine who is graduating from U of M's master's program, their dance and theater program, is putting on a performance, their thesis performance in the fall. And they're going to do 2 performances, one on campus and one at Wheeler Park.
Mm.
So I just
Sorry
wanted
about that.
say it again. Yeah, I wanted to put that on everybody's radar. I don't know if there's, it's just a matter of something we can help promote and get the word out, or if there's another way we could support and collaborate. But yeah, I just wanted to put that on everybody's radar as like a performance art in the public art space.
That's cool.
Can you- Yeah.
Do you know when it's going to be? Did you give the date? I'm sorry.
It will be,
Can you send us something, Jamal? Just an email?
yeah.
I'd be happy to promote it.
Okay. Yep, I'll do that. The September 6th will be at the university, and the 7th will be at Wheeler Park.
Wheeler Park. I like Wheeler Park. Cool.
So yeah, I'll send that out though.
Good. Thanks.
Yeah, who's currently handling our social media?
I mean, guess technically me, but I'm not really handling it.
Okay. We probably don't have many followers, huh? How many we have thousands, we have millions of followers, right?
It's growing slowly but surely. It's growing. But
That's why we need that youth member. Get them going on the social
Mhm.
media.
Exactly, Erin. Yeah.
anybody can upload.
You'd be surprised how many young people are like off social media. I have tried to hire a social media employee for like, and I come in contact with a lot of young people and they're like, yeah, no. But we will. Thanks, Jamal, for bringing that. I would love to hear learn more for sure. Any other committees or any more announcements or ideas that could fall under?
I'll just let Mary and Sarah know. I'm forwarding you the email from July of 2020 where we had that ordinance changed, just so you can see how it was handled by Caitlin in the past. And
Great. Thanks, Allison.
it
I
did
didn't
not
know.
include the word promotion. However,
Oh, no.
I'm led to believe by her email that that's okay. And also, I would say promoting the public art collection goes to its best interests of maintenance and preservation. But
Agreed.
I'm not
Yeah.
a lawyer.
Yeah, it's almost implied. Promoting, yeah, it is.
I saw that. Oh, go ahead.
Sophie's not here, but everyone should go to the art pop this weekend, just because.
Yeah, for sure. Art Hop happening.
West Side Art Hub.
We just repainted the roundabout yesterday, 10 artists in 9 hours. I don't know if any of you guys know, but we had a product fail. And we found out that street sweepers were coming through and sanding the mural, sanding it. So I have some work to do with the city. Erin, I'm going to be reaching out to you to help with that one because I
Sure.
think projects like this should be partnership.
Yeah.
But yeah, we successfully were able to repaint it. So if you're down there for Art Hop, go check it out. If that's all from committees, we can move on to report from staff. Erin, are there any updates on your end?
Sure. Yeah. I also saw, going back to the committee updates, Sophie had sent that example of a position statement, and I forget which committee that was under their goals, but she just sent that today. So folks.
Yeah, good point. Jamal, do you remember what committee that was that you and Marionetta and Sophie?
Oh, I think we just kind of specifically.
Okay. Is that still something that people feel strongly about, kind of crafting a statement and putting that out there? Would that be something we'd use our social media for?
We could, yeah.
Could be.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I'll take a closer look at it. I haven't followed any of the links she sent yet, but I did see the email.
From the email, it looks like she was thinking this language could potentially be something we put together to send to council. And correct me if I'm wrong, but basically our thoughts and concerns moving forward with the support for art, and giving a framework of what we would like to see from the city in support of art. So I guess it would be in the form of maybe a more formal memo.
That's accurate.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
And then-
I've only been a part of the one with the ARPA funding, where we sent that memo to council, and that was after having a well-attended meeting of the public, and maybe that's something to aspire to have a sort of more public conversation around this idea moving
yeah,
forward.
then like the eventual kind of goal would be to get more community members, community entities, organizations in the art world to kind of sign off on it as well and be kind of a part of the statement.
Yeah, Creative Washtenaw was a partner, so there are definitely organizations we can reach out to for support.
And then for staff updates, I had put out that call for this Station 4, the new Firehouse Station 4. So Vice Chair Fuller will be the Art Commission rep on that. So she'll be able to keep you updated once those kick off. The CIP resolution was approved on Monday at the council meeting. And so that will be moving forward. I know there were a couple pieces where we sort of recommend that the city administrator work with the U of M. So there are quarterly policy meetings that Public Services has with the University of Michigan, and that's happening next week. And so I gave them a heads up to add that as an agenda topic. So I'll report back if there's anything to report back from that meeting. And then when we were talking about the comp plan, something sparked in my mind that might be of interest to this commission. So the floodplain coordinator with the city is sort of spearheading this effort. It's an educational effort around historic Allen Creek that runs through downtown. And so she will be developing kind of like some markings showing where the historic Allen Creek was that's now, underground in a pipe. But if I can share my screen quickly, I can show you the website and then so yeah, we have a website dedicated to it. I think that there will be markers that bear some sort of resemblance to this at some point. But the idea was, that they will kind of trail the historic river. And so I'm pulling up the GIS map to kind of show where that is in relation to Ann Arbor. So yeah, it does run like basically straight through downtown. And so that's kind of a cool project that will be coming, and I'll have more detailed updates as that gets kind of rolled out and developed. So
Great.
yeah.
I was just recently in Baltimore, and there's a similar creek or river that's all underground now in Baltimore, and they had little sort of water markers on streets sort of through the path that it takes. So that's a cool idea of doing some sort of visual representation.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yep.
We,
And yeah,
we
a lot of
already have
those.
we have a piece of public art that's right on that creek line too. The fish on Kingsley and First. That was because it's in that 100-year floodplain that became a
Oh, cool.
50-year floodplain that became a 25-year floodplain. So that's kind of an art piece marker that Allen Creek goes right underneath of that, right by the railroad tracks.
Yeah. Yep. That will hopefully be a co-benefit of, yeah, there are a lot of areas of the city that are in the floodplain, but it's just because it's in a big pipe underground. And so a lot of people don't know that there is a lot of flooding.
Because the pipe isn't big enough. That's what's causing a lot of the flooding. Yeah.
Oops. Hey, thank you, Erin, for your updates. Excellent. Are there any items for the next agenda that people right off the bat have any thoughts on? Okay, before we adjourn, are there any creative updates? Allison, you mentioned Art Hop coming up this weekend. Any other just fun things on anybody's horizon that you want to let us know about?
The Chelsea Painters Guild. Their
Bingo.
show. Yes, that's the June 14th and 15th, I believe.
Yes, and it's 50 years. I just got the postcard. Yeah. So that's a really neat art fair in Chelsea. Group of painters, 50 years strong. When does the Ann Arbor Summer Festival start?
13th, I think.
Soon. Nice. Are you performing this year, Jamal? Is AML?
No, we're taking a Summerfest break. Something else though.
Erin, when is our next meeting? Do you have that right on the tip of your tongue there? July. Are we meeting in July with the 4th coming up? And
I was going to ask about that because it is July 2nd would be our
Okay.
meeting date.
Let's pass.
okay, pass on July. Okay, so August, what would be the date in August?
August 6th is the first Wednesday.
Are there any conflicts that people have off the bat right now, or I would really, so that actually gives fundraising a little more time to develop maybe some grant protocol. Maybe we're kicking off a RFP that goes out in August for the fall, could be, okay, we'll talk about that. All right, so we won't be meeting next month. I think it'd be a great time for committees to get together to move some things forward, and certainly come back strong in August.
With 2 new commissioners.
With 2 new commissioners, absolutely.
So,
Yeah, so
recommendations if there's
so Jamal, you're on leadership, right? Because Allison and Sarah, you and I, we met to review applications a couple years ago together, correct? Are you still active on that committee? Interested? I can't hear you.
As former vice chair, Jamal is, but if he doesn't have to be, if he doesn't want to be.
I'm down. I don't want to be on too many though. How many am I on? 3? Shouldn't be on more than 3, right?
Well, we combined to, if you check out the plan.
Communications and outreach, yeah.
So we'll be getting a happy hour meeting together for drinks and application review. Just show of hands, does anybody have an idea? Does anybody have a person they'd like to recommend join that in their mind right now, or?
In my mind,
You do in your mind? Okay. Okay. All right. Well, let's bring a couple of new people to our commission and keep moving some of these awesome things forward. I really appreciate everybody's time tonight. This is a volunteer commission, and you're all doing amazing work, and I appreciate all of you.
likewise.
Likewise, yeah.
If there is nothing else, would someone like to
Move to adjourn.
move to adjourn? John Kotarski, thank you. It's good to see your face, sir. We've missed you over the months. Great to see your face.
Yes.
And sad to see Fong go. Please respond to her email, sending her much gratitude and love and appreciation for the time that she did serve as chair for our commission. So please give her a shout out. And
That was a resignation.
I think so.
Okay.
That's how I saw it. But and Erin knows for sure, right, Erin? Yes. Okay. Also, Sophie did resign, so give her a shout out and some gratitude and appreciation for the years that she has been on this commission as well. 6 years, I think it was. Great. Well, if there's nothing else, I hereby mallet my mouse, adjourn. Y'all are beautiful.
Good
Bye.
night.
Good night.